Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Hi and welcome to It's Only a Game podcast. My name is Greg, Rochdale fan. So this is going to be a different type of episode today. Obviously, you will have heard the news last weekend. Joey Thompson passed away, ex-Rochdale player, ex-Bury player, Tranmere. I think he played for Carlisle. Just devastating news, really, to learn the passing of Joe Thompson. Joe had been bravely battling cancer for a third time, passed away peacefully at home on Thursday. Obviously faced every battle head on, both on and off the pitch, you could say. Just a tremendous guy, really. It's more than just being. He isn't, he is a husband and a son and a father. You know, that's the forefront, really, of what Joey is. His bravery whilst battling these various conditions that he's had. Obviously, cancer 3 times, just dreadful, really. I was listening to a quick shout out to Mark Crossley on BBC Sports Manchester, who did a opening 20 minutes of, I think he was live from the Reebok with Keith Hill, and I think they had Calvin Andrew in the studio as well, coming from satellite, you could say. And Mark Crossley was talking to Keith Hill about Joey Thompson, what Joe Thompson means to Keith Hill, and Keith Hill could just about get through what he wanted to say, you know, in terms of his pride and his grief, you know, in terms of Joey Thompson being what Keith Hill described as his only football son, or when it comes to football sons, he's the one and only. You could hear the emotion in Keith Hill's voice when they were talking about Joe Thompson, obviously. And Calvin Andrew had some lovely things to say as well about Joe. Some wonderful stories there. When they obviously both finished football, they became somewhat colleagues, commentating on previous games, fixtures for Rochdale, or different fixtures altogether. It could be general matches for the BBC Manchester Sports. And Calvin always said whenever Joe may have found himself in, not trouble, but needing a bit of help somewhere here and there, they would always look to Calvin Andrew as if Calvin Andrew was his big brother, almost, you could say. So that was nice little stories from Calvin, and a few from Keith Hill as well. I think he joined Dale in 2005, Joe Thompson. I think he made his debut against Carlisle. Was it 2005 or 2006? I'm sure. I definitely remember him playing against Carlisle. Would go on to be a regular for Dale and played an integral part in the promotion season, 2010. Great achievement, obviously, for the club to go up. His first spell with the club came to an end in 2012, I think, having played 157 appearances and scoring something like nearly 20 goals. Obviously, it was in the summer. He joined Tranmere Rovers, although he did return to Dale for a loan spell in that season, making 7 appearances. I think it's 2013. Joe was diagnosed with the cancerous disease Hodgkin's lymphoma, battling to overcome that and return to professional football with Bury in 2014. Don't think he played a lot for Bury. I think he played 2 or 3 times. Speaking to one of my mates, Gaz, saying I think when he did sign for Bury, he was almost instantly injured, almost, in terms of, I don't think he got a good run of games or anything like that, maybe in 2 or 3 games. One of those, I think, was away to Bolton at the Reebok. It was one of the fixtures that stood out for Gaz. I think he also had spells with Wrexham, Southport, and mentioned Carlisle United. Joey did return back to Scotland in 2016, which is technically a 3rd stint with Rochdale, I think. But, however, just several months later, the disease came back for a 2nd time. Once again, Joey was fighting, bravely fighting off the disease, which is horrible, really. And I think he did. I think he did return back. Obviously, managed to play. We know he managed to play a few more games for Dale. He definitely featured in the Wembley trip against Tottenham Hotspur in 2018. Remember that one. Me and my dad went down, got the coach from Rochdale, and it was snowing. So yeah, he did play in that Wembley game against Tottenham. I think it was 6-1. One of the first VAR games in England. I do remember that being a stat. But obviously he would score the crucial goal, 1-0 against Charlton Athletic to keep us, Rochdale, in League One, keep our status in League One. I think that relegated Oldham Athletic in the same day. Yeah, he made a few more, or one or two more appearances for Dale before announcing his retirement in 2019. Joe, after football, would be a motivational speaker and life coach too. He would go to schools. He was obviously I mentioned before with Calvin, an engaging football pundit. And I think he had a few roles at Manchester United. I'm not too sure if he would comment on the games per se, but it may have been pre or post match or to do with the youth team, because he obviously did have a stint at the Man United youth team when he was younger as well. Recently, he did a 21-mile walk from Old Trafford, Manchester United Old Trafford, to the Crown Oil Arena. I think he walked with a few supporters and friends for various charities. Obviously, he was still suffering as well, so that was a great, thing that he did, really, Joe. For despite having these battling as he did, he still tried to do everything, in terms of raising vital funds for various charities. So that was absolutely fantastic. You can't, unbelievable. But yeah, Joel's legacy will live on forever. Various clubs have held tributes for Joe Thompson. I know Bury Football Club did I think they were clapping on the 36th minute at the Bury game at the weekend where they won the league to be promoted. I do believe that Tranmere Rovers did a tribute as well, and the other clubs must have done something that also. I obviously didn't pick up on that on social media, but I'm sure other clubs have as well. Just a fantastic individual. You can't really quantify Joey Kenny in terms of nobody should really have to go through the things that he did. Going through cancer so many times, the pain and the suffering of that, and his family obviously very incredibly brave. Hopefully I will be at the Rochdale game on Saturday against Hartlepool, where I can pay my respects to Joe Thompson. I'm thinking of putting one of my shirts down at the club. Hopefully I can sign the book that they've got there as well. Hopefully we can still do some chanting. I'm sure we will at Rochdale, and have the flags flying high for Joe. Not just his time at the club, just him in general as a person, all the bravery he went through, all the money he raised, and the awareness of different things like this that he's gone through. I know he speaks about this in his book. I was tweeting something the other day that should happen, but hopefully, I don't know how you would get the ball rolling with it, but I know the Rochdale fans managed to put money together for building a statue. Obviously, the Rochdale fan that we have, the statue in the home stand, home end, main end, whatever you want to call it. I wonder if we could do that for Joe Thompson. And you wouldn't just get Rochdale fans chipping in with that. You may get, Carlisle fans, all the other fans, Everton fans, not just football fans. It doesn't matter about football, does it really? You may get other people that would want to, put a couple of quid in and build a nice statue for Joe. Stories, you've obviously got the goal against Charlton, fantastic. I was in Sandy Lane for that with my dad. And I like the idea of what Hilly said with his interview with Mark Crossley the other day, that they had like almost a mini plan. It wasn't, it sounded as if they didn't have a lot of pressure on Joe to come on, but the mini plan was to give him that 15 minutes, time to, see what he can do in the game. And obviously it pulled off. You could say with most of these plans where you bring on a sub, you are hoping for the goal, but it doesn't always turn out, does it? But that's the one way. It was absolutely incredible being in Sandy Lane. I can't put that into words as well. It was a fairy tale, really, in terms of you'll never see anything like that. Or we, hopefully we don't, again, where obviously Joe, there's a suggestion that he maybe shouldn't have been on the pitch. And the euphoria of staying up, Joe getting the goal, keeping us up in the division. There's so many different moving parts in that game. It was 0-0. We needed the goal. And then obviously, I think we had 7 minutes of added time. I was in Sandy with my dad and the other Dale fans just looking at the watch and social media and counting down the seconds. And obviously, you had some of the players in the tunnel looking at televisions and in the changing room. And then you had some of them maybe slightly near the entrance where you walk through onto the pitch. You had a few all over the place. Centre circle of the pitch. It's a bit blurry, that. I feel like I've seen different footage of it. Maybe some of it doesn't exist and I've made some of that up, but I'm definitely seeing some of them looking at television. And Joe Thompson, obviously, in there. Hendo, Calvin Andrew. But yeah, the euphoria of staying up was incredible. It was a strange season, that one, wasn't it? That was the cup run sort of bled into the league form, where we picked up a bit into the league, in the league results. You could argue without the cup run, I'm not too sure if we would have stayed up, because the cup run basically just gave us that momentum and confidence to sort of bleed into the league form, and we managed to get Joey got the goal. Incredible day. I remember invading the pitch. I know that's controversial now, isn't it, invading the pitch, but I don't care. I did. Nobody were going to harm anyone. We were just hugging each other, weren't we, that we all stayed up. Went round Bury later on round the pubs, and I don't remember how I got back, but I do remember celebrating, having drinks. Incredible day. We spoke a little bit about the charity work that he did, and I would see it on social media. And just what a great way to visit these schools and other centres, you could say, to talk to people in general about what he's gone through, or even football in general. It must have been difficult for him to talk about those aspects of his life. It must have been. But, he always had a smile on his face, and he was always just such a great guy. I never had the pleasure of really meeting him, but I may have bumped into him when Rochdale got promoted and the fans went round Rochdale afterwards with the players and Keith Hill. That was a great night. I possibly bumped into him then. I don't remember, obviously, being sat next to him or anything. I was sat next to Keith Hill, which was a strange thing. I was sat next to Keith Hill in the Regal Moon watching Match of the Day. Maybe a few more Rochdale fans that were there as well, remembering that. But I was only with him for about 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes. But yeah, we were watching the Premier League, and not the Premier League, Match of the Day. And I remember the Rochdale players, Michael Rose and a few others, had shots and were all cheers to each other and state promotion on that day. Scott Hogan would have been in there as well, I think. I'm sure Joe Thompson was in that team. If not, I stand corrected. I definitely know that you were in a vital part of the first promotion team. It sort of merges into one in terms of his 3 spells for Dale. I always forget when the 3 of them ended in. Well, I obviously know the last one, but the other 2 I can never remember when they quite ended and what time frame we're on there in terms of where we were in what league. But I always associate him being there. I'm gonna have to Google that. Bad, isn't it, when you support a club and you can't remember the timeline of when things happen? But it does blur into one sometimes. But yeah. We're hoping to do a podcast on Tuesday night, myself, Jim and Deck, who, we're going to talk more about Joe Thompson and obviously the impact he had at Tranmere, because Deck and Jimmy may have seen him play at Tranmere. Might try and get the opinion of other Rochdale fans as well, and Bury fans. So that's where we are. Hopefully we will release another podcast on Tuesday. I'm now rambling, so I'm going to cut it short now, but we've got a few minutes there about Joe. I'm going to be there on Saturday at the Rochdale Hartlepool game. Hopefully I'm going to get one of my old shirts and write a message on it and put it down for Joe. And it's as our podcast title suggests, it's only a game. And it is, really. This is bigger than football. This is somebody's son and husband and father. There is an old people's home in Bamford, where my grandma was. I'm going to get to the point eventually of this. You'll wonder where I'm going. But I think Joe Thompson's grandma was in the same home as my grandma. I never bumped into Joe, but my mum did. My mum used to see Joe visiting his grandma in the home, and he used to say hello, and my mum used to say hello. But just a really grounded fella, isn't he, really? He was just a really like as it suggests, the Rochdale fans say he's one of our own, and he was. Obviously, he wasn't born in the area, but you know, he doesn't matter, does it really, where you're born? But he was always one of us. He will be forever remembered. It would be nice to do. We could have like a charity cup pre-season, like we have done with Ernie Cooksey. I'm sure we've done that before now with Oldham, but we definitely need to keep the legacy of Joe going. It doesn't have to be anything football. It could be anything really. So yeah. So rest in peace, Joe Thompson. Fantastic person, and you will be missed.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.